So Caroline, how did you get into astrology?
Let's see, I was the youngest person to hang around a very cool salon where we were doing responsible entheogenic research. And reading Joseph Campbell and Carl Jung, and at that point I thought, you know, I never wanted a straight job. And here's this beautiful, beautiful language that is much dissed and undervalued, that it directly correlates personal change, social change, ritual magic. And I thought, this is it. I'm going to go for this. And part of those conundrums going, either it's completely true, this magical way of living, in which case one should live that way, and even if it's not, one should live that way. So let's just do it, and let's jump in and see if it is true, and then, by gods, it is. It does work.
How has astrology impacted your life, both personally, you know, tracking your transits, checking out the cycles, the archetypes, and as a career?
Well, I guess I'd switch all those words around, you know, impacted, too violent. Guided, informed, animated. You know, I work in many different media venues, and on left-wing radio, my show, Visionary Activist shows on the Pacifica Network, and sometimes they'll say, you know, why did you anchor yourself to astrology? You could do anything, you know. And I go, anchor? No, it's my boat. You know, it's, you know, even for all of us, you know, when we, you know, presume to direct collective attention, you know, it's daunting. Everyone has a certain amount of stage fright, and I think with astrology we got to say, oh no, it's not me, it's this beautiful language seeks a voice through me and many others, and it's like, whoosh, good. You know, and I think that's for all of us, that there's a, you know, whatever we love, we are its agent, we are its ambassador. We're not seeking fame, but we may be intending influence, which is different. And so astrology, I've always been grateful. At one point I was wondering about whether to be a Jungian analyst, and my dreams made it very clear that once again, no, I'd just be, you know, the bad girl smoking on the steps of the ashram. And that here's this beautiful language of astrology that no matter how much I studied forever, would be an inexhaustible fountain of guidance and wisdom and a complete life. Which by no means makes it inaccessible to anyone, because part of what I've been up to is to make it accessible, saying, you know, everything is real, everything's symbolic. One's birth chart says this is a real map, it's a symbolic map of a symbolic map of the interior community of you. And each planet represents, doesn't cause necessarily, but represents a quality of intelligence and beauty that suffuses the universe. And each of us have a kind of unique relationship to those planetary intelligences about this. We're all part of one large pulsing dream. So, but for each person, you know, when we speak to these planets, it quickens that in us, like kind of wise animals that might have been ignored or underfed. So we're feeding them right now when we say each person in their psyche has a hero, a dreamer, you know, a trickster, a defier of authority, an authority, you know, and we want to bring all those qualities alive to encourage each to be maximally unique, not special, because that's a toxic celebrity model, but each person who's unique really encourages freedom that each other person be unique. And we send out a call that, you know, at this time of the world's dire beauty, we need everyone's uniqueness. You know, we need the awakened imagination and unique contribution of returning vets and inner city youth and right-wing golfers, and it's like the card game Hearts, which some people might know, but the gist of it is, in the card game Hearts, you can do this very bold thing called shooting the moon. And it means you need the Queen of Spades and all of the hearts. And if you do that, you go, wow, you know, you win big. But if you leave out even one, you lose worse than if you hadn't tried at all. And I think historically, democratically, kinship right now, it's like that for us. You know, we want an all-embracing vision that includes everyone, not specialness, everyone. We need each person, we need your, you know, we all need everybody's unique contribution at this time where ingenuity and uniqueness are being called forth because we are wealthy with ingenious solutions to the innumerable irreverent crises that we as a species have created due to this rudeness and exile and how we treat, you know, animals and rocks and things. So it's this beautiful language of applied dynamic trickster reverence, I think.
What is your favorite, like, what fascinates you about astrology? If there's a new person coming into astrology who sees this video or whatever, like, what fascinates you that you would like to impart to them?
Oh, well, all of it. I mean, I'm very partial to the, I'm completely dedicated right now to what I call the compassionate trickster. The wedding of Neptune, imagination, ingenuity, imagination and vision, and symbolic thinking, and Uranus, the trickster, the maverick, the disobedient, the whatever. So I aspire to animate and bring forward, Brer Rabbit. Brer Rabbit starts off by saying, "There was times when all the creatures used to gather to sagactuate, just like there ain't been no hard times, just like there ain't been no falling out, just like they remembered they were all kin." And so we have these great trickster resources to draw upon. We say all cultures have their favorite gods or qualities they encourage and those they discourage. But to defy authority and orthodoxy is kind of crucial, especially now. We need those parts of all of us that have been most exiled and least welcome until now, which is the ingenious maverick, against all odds, or the odds that trickster likes. I like to say the situation's so dire we can't afford the luxury of realism. So people go, "Oh, whaley, whaley." We go, "No." That's where the trickster enters. That part of us that's been waiting backstage in the green room to go on, looking at his or her watch, going, monologue of cultural dominance and humorless greed has been going on for about 2,500 years. It should be winding up now, and now comes, ingenuity and maverickness and intuition. And it's the thing we all hope is true, that when we begin to experiment with it, we find out it is true, that we're all part of something, and that we can leap over realism. So by cultivating a desire for service and a willingness to play, the trickster starts to enter, and then synchronicities line up. Because Uranus, in each one of us, and in the world, says, ingenuity, intuition, freedom, democracy, equality, synchronicity. So it says, well, when we treat each other in a democratic fashion, the rate of synchronicity increases dramatically. And this is what gives us hope. As we say, the forces of greed and dementordom, have more money and lawyers. But if we treat each other well, hey, how you doing? Which doesn't mean nice, because nice comes from nescient, which means no knowledge. Be a nice little girl. We want compassion with sizzle. And we want to treat each other, other teachers, for instance, we say, well, if we have any respect for them at all, we will accord them the respect of treating them as an equal. When we look down at someone or up at someone, oh, great one, there is no synchronicity. There is no magic. We're all colleagues. Age of Guru kind of over. Each person has a piece of the puzzle that's crucial, and there's reverence and respect, but not a kind of imprisoning hierarchical abdication of authority. I think we're in this new force field.
Me too. I love it too. So, in working with clients or doing a chart session, how do you prepare for a session? And do you ever get nervous?
Yes, still. I've been doing this for a gazillion years. I do a lot of readings. I do a lot of presentations. I do radio every week to about 100,000 people audience. And I do always feel different degrees of a little daunted. And we cook, what is good about that? One is, it is such a great responsibility and an honor to direct a person's attention to their own life, or an audience's attention to what we deem to be important, like what we're doing now. So I think a little bit of dauntedness is appropriate and useful. We don't want paralytic dread, like, and that's again where astrology does help. So there is a little stage fright, dauntedness. Part of, Mark Twain, great trickster, said, worry is not preparation. I go, oh, that's important, And he also said, I've experienced many terrible things in my life, most of which never came to pass. We go, yeah, we don't want the useless paralytic dread. We're willing to release useless paralytic dread, just in case some of it's useful. And what I've come to understand is, there is an opening to prayer. You know, there's so much in this beautiful language before one does a reading that I do the calculations and then I still hand draw the charts because it's a way of feeling my way into the dynamic. It's kind of just drawing those symbols. So even though we have all this high-tech computer stuff, and I calculate that and print the chart, but then I hand draw it. And as I hand draw it, you know, just making those symbols every day, and then you get to honor each person, each part of that person as you're drawing it and going, ooh, patterns, so that they are informing what most wants being said. And then, you know, very often I think we have our mantras, you know, I go, you know, free me from ego magic and, you know, guide me to say, you know, with my head, my heart, my instinct, all that this person needs for their greater health and happiness and contribution of their gift to the community. May it be so. Because part of this is we're collaborating, that we really can't do anything of ourselves. And I think the value of writing down or aspiring or setting vows is to acknowledge we can't even be as good as we want to be. The purpose of vows is to kind of put it on the table and go, I aspire to be this, forces of woof that animate the universe, or however we choose to, you know, animate the divine. You know, hold me to this. This is how I want to be. And I think that's, you know, it's a great time for all of us to do that now, going, right, you know, what do we want to feel like, and what do we want the effect of each one of us to feel like to the world, you know, to be encouraging, inspiring, kind of sizzly, provocative. You know, anything is fair game, but it's useful to not live life by default, you know, to intend and experiment. And I do like compassion with sizzle, because it's like too much of that angel stuff, you know, the shadow gets denied and those people can stab you in the back, you know. So we want a little compassion with sizzle. I like the quality of fierce blessing that ally etiquette says. We're allowed to send anything out into the world of which we would be the happy recipients, you know, and I think that's the criterion. But we want to experiment with that, you know. So one of my favorites to set going is, may it be that each human have an increasing empathic experience of the effect of their actions on others. And go, yeah, I'd take that. So let it rip, you know. Dementors of Doom or whatever, oh no, so that people really feel the effect of their actions on others. That's very much like, you know, the Osiris and the Egyptian Book of the Dead, from which the Ten Commandments were actually stolen. The Ten Commandments are extracted from the Egyptian Book of the Dead, which was 101 professions in which Osiris, you know, on the brinks at his death, he says, I have not, you know, stolen. I have not coveted my neighbor's goods, you know, and 101 other good things. It wasn't like thou shalt not. It's like, we can do this, you know, and then of course our hearts are weighed against the balance of a feather. Which brings us to the beauty of the Middle East. You know, one of the great sayings in Arabic is, it's important to keep your blood light. The Ten Commandments, stolen from the Egyptian Book of the Dead, Osiris' professions of faith, in which his heart is weighed in the balance against a feather. And if our hearts are lighter than a feather, then we continue the evolutionary experience, you know, and if our hearts are heavier, then the gates open up and giant monsters come and eat it, you know. But it is like the beautiful Arabic saying that says, important to keep our blood light. And I've talked to so many people who have been through so much in South Africa and in Palestinian women and in Syria, and it is natural, of course, to be bitter. But the great miracle is to find people subjected to incredibly difficult experience who have been not bitter. Nelson Mandela, many Palestinian women who kept their blood light, you know, their heart light. Alhamdulillah, all praise to the divine. And how do we do that? You know, we wonder. And it is by inviting that in and by the power of blessing. These cultures, I think that we are everywhere in the world, you know, we want to make the distinction, you know, as we say to the world, we are not our current American government, nor are the Israeli people their current government, nor the Syrian people, nor the Iranian people. We make common cause with all saint and reverend beings, crows and animals and rocks and galaxies and humans, you know, for a desirable vision of how it could be. You know, so that crossing of borders, wherever there's Mars, you know, kind of crude conflict in service to greed for a few who are missing the whole point of life, we go, well then hiding Mars, you know, true heroism serves the community and brings beauty to it. And I do think that very often invaded or colonized cultures have the medicine, have the Venusian beauty that the oppressor or invading country needs. If we could just step backstage and redo the thing. One of the things that we know, in the beauty and complexity of Arabic and Persian culture is that it's full of incredible beauty and blessing throughout the whole day. Islamu Udain, may the divine bless your hands that have made such beauty. You can use that every hour in Syria. And even one of the things I found most moving with a great friend of mine in Syria, in a truck stop filled with everybody reading poetry and just beautiful food and meals. And the waiter, the young boy, says to my Syrian friend, anything else, madam? And she says, only your peace. And it's like, oh, even these small things of, only your peace. How do we weave blessing? May it go well for you. In the Celts, of course, the art form of blessing, many, O'Donoghue brought these back up, but it's an art form that we want to bring back and remember because it's in our bones. It's when this, then may this. And my two favorites are, when the ghost of loss stands behind you as you gaze out the window, then may the ancestors place a cloak upon your shoulders that will mend your life. It's like, and when your boat is sinking in rough water, then may the moon spin a silver pathway upon which you may safely tread to shore. And we go, this is not only wonderful, but it's potent. In astrology, Jupiter says, the blessings we say, the stories we predominantly tell, attract the molecules of their manifestation. The early Kabbalists said, if God is everything, the divine is everything, how does God create using nothing outside of God? And they said, well, by analogy, we humans, how do we create using no material outside ourselves? And they said, in our imagination. So when it's said that, we are made in the image of God, it doesn't mean we look like, old white guys with beards. It means we are dreamed in the mind of the divine, and our capacity to imagine and dream is our honorable assignment to collaborate in dreaming the world into being. It is the divine spark within each one of us. And we all know that our personal lives and our collective lives are narrowed and circumscribed or expanded by the images that circulate through our personal minds. What we think is or isn't true. That great saying, whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. I like that one. And we say, so it is true for the larger culture. What is possible for us collectively is expanded or narrowed by the images that circulate through mass mind. And the images that circulate through mass mind have been predominantly infantile and violent and cultivating the evolutionary dead-end qualities of, looting and pillaging and side effects. It's like pharmaceutical side effects. Side effects may include headache and planetary extinction. To many of the things we're doing, and we say, well, let's redress that. Which is why we say to each one of us, our imaginations are so powerful. And when through this fantastic thing of film, we get to really collaborate on a desirable image, we say for the compassionate trickster, the memosphere, the sphere in the collective, in our personal lives as it kind of pulses into the collective, is the strategic zone of influence. The images, the myths, the metaphor, and the language that circulate out there has everything to do with outcome. Which is why we want critique, but I like to say, on the Visionary Activist Show and all kinds of venues that I do, we say critique without vision is complicitous with tyranny and dominance. To go, oh, it sucks and this is terrible. And we go, no, it's not helping. We don't want to either just be, Pollyannas, like, oh, everything's great, because it's not. We want to go, here's what needs composting. We want to compost tyranny, as a rich nutrient for the culture of reverent ingenuity that we aspire to grow. So here's, and here's how it could be. Which is why we say the secular critic holds up a mirror and goes, our left-leaning guys, our Noam Chomskys and whatever, but it's still kind of professorial and paralytic and a little tyrannical, going, let me tell you how it is, it's bad. And we go, yes, but that's only Act 4. We need Act 5. It's terrible, and here's how it could be. So we say the trickster part of all of us takes the mirror, going, reality sucks, and with a wave of the hand goes, yeah, but here's a window. Look, here's how it is. Here's how it could be. It could be fantastic. And then with another wave of the hand, what we're doing now, in cahoots completely, we wave our hand again, and it's a door. Let's go there now. You know, we could have, I like, as a friend of mine says, this beautiful planet, you know, one of the best campsites in the universe. Like, my God, how beautiful and gorgeous the patternedness and the kindness and the poignancy. You know, whenever we see something that moves us, we say poignancy is kinship. And we go, oh, the polar bears and and the humans so rude. And not just that, of course, but we love the non-charismatic necessaries, the small microbials, the insects, the nematode worms, the bacteria, the fungi, without whom we need it all. You know, I think it's also, you know, and the idea even of poisonous allies if we're in the right relationship. There was a great German medical research that came out last year that said the herpes virus actually has been shown to eat brain cancer cells. We go, cool, possibly a relatively small price to pay. You know, I mean, how do we talk to everything? And poisonous allies is also the whole realm of homeopathy. You take a microdose of the poison. It's like a great friend of mine, late great ancestors. We call upon the dead. We want to collaborate with everything, the dead. And anybody, you know, we say our ancestors or anybody who's ever lived has been dedicated to the kind of unique thing that each one of us loves. So, late great kahuna, actual kahuna, not a poseur, a Hawaiian magic person raised from birth, but she said in her training they had to learn black magic in order to perform goodness. She said the killing points and the healing points in a body are the same. The difference is intention. And we say as cultural strategists and cultural acupuncturists, we go, well, where do we lean in to the culture, you know, to its images, its games? You know, again, the crucial part of the games we play, two synchronous conversations. A Lakota Sioux person asked me, he said, do you know Cat's Cradle, the string game? You know, I go, yeah. And he said, it's how we used to teach our young people to enter into the dream world. And I was like, oh, that's cool. Thousands of miles away, 6 months later, at a conference, Astrology conference in New Zealand with Maori healers and elders, fabulous interacting. And a Maori elder said, you know Cat's Cradle, the string game? And I was like, yes. He said, it's how we used to teach our young people to enter the dream world. I'm like, cool. Of course, all games of kind of hypnotic, rhythmic pattern would fine-tune the reverie muscles, specificity leading us into broad reverie and imagination to enter the dream world. And we've let all that go. And all indigenous people say that games are a culture's primary way of passing on its concepts of heroism and its desirable aspects of culture, and we've let that go.
I just got a chill when you said that, because every weekend my friends and I get together and play a game called Twilight Imperium, and it's a galactic exploration game.
Yeah.
And it takes 8 hours to play, but by the end we all feel like, you know.
Well, you want to put that out. I mean, the games are really crucial because we have the video games, which a lot of the army's running now, and they get in touch with 14-year-olds saying, we notice how good you are at killing, and, you know, we'll be in touch with you later. No. You know, and yes, ingenuity and collaboration games, you know, and how to inhale that back, not going, it's just a game. It's like, it's a game, we need that. It's part of how we train and envision, you know, and implement and invoke reality. So, yeah, games, metaphors, myth, the stories we tell, the stories we animate, you know, the importance of a 5-act structure. A playwright friend of mine says the problem with modern creativity, where we've thrown away our power and then wonder why the world is so terrible. We've squandered it, you know, and we go, the power of imagination and ingenuity is the unbeatable alliance, you know, it's the, you know, and
which in a sense seems to be like one of the sources of creative imagination that, like, say, like, you know, Christians attack astrology as much as they attack, like, Dungeons and Dragons, for instance, you know, because...
You know, but, you know, I love the word complicity because it means, without shame or blame, whatever's coming down, we're co-creating it. So I by no means present myself as an exemplar, you know, and I know lots of great, you know, big-time teachers, and I don't know anybody who hasn't been thrown off the horse of their own teaching. And I think that's really important. It's only humans, you know. But I would say that I'm an aspiring compassionate trickster, and we are all aspiring, you know, in an equal way. But So I put out principles, and then the gods do, call your bluff, and I think that's how we get trained. When you ask about astrology, I think we put in enough time, and then as the gods go, well, they farted around for a while, but their hearts are pretty good. Now we'll hook them up that all disciplines have their gods. Filmmaking gods, storytelling gods, dental gods, laundry god, whatever. And when you put in enough time, when the god takes you on and goes, now we'll train you. So that was a long aside, and I know there was an important point coming back to it. Can you remember? The gods.
About the games, creativity, imagination, astrology, Dungeons and Dragons.
That's right. Okay, we're almost there. That's okay. That's right. Okay, it was important. I know. I took a dangerous sidebar leap.
That's all right. Well, let me ask something.
Yes.
It seems like humanity's sort of in its own little balsamic phase, And my favorite poet. Go ahead.
I grabbed the thought. Yes. So universe calling my bluff. So I have been on camera. I've been on TV a whole bunch of times with not Pat Robertson. Although I almost did that too. Wait. Right wing nuts. Oh, Neptune moment. Wait. Pat Buchanan. Okay, so Pat Buchanan, Christian Jesuit right winger, right? But the last time he was on, they called me on as the eccentric or whatever, and he was like Harry Potter bad. I actually got to spin him, and he goes, well, okay. I mean, I have actually been able 3 times on television to change Pat Buchanan's mind, and to go, whoa. The first time was when there was the whole Nancy Reagan Gate astrology thing, and I, for a brief moment, went on Nightline and Crossfire and all kinds of stuff. And Pat Buchanan was the best interviewer, and it was because he was a right-wing confident Jesuit, so he actually listened. And the liberal guys were so worried that they'd look silly, thinking about astrology, that they just were terrible interviewers. But Pat Buchanan, and I also like talking to, we want to talk across borders to people unlike ourselves. Moving out, diasporing outside of the groovy ghettos. There's a wonderful book you might want to check out called Svaha by Charles DeLint, a novel. It's about now. He wrote it in the 80s, but it's really good. And the world poisonous and full of intrigue and violence. The Native American tribes have resolved garbage and clean systems, and they've seceded to their realm of ingenuity. It's kind of true. And they send out one man who could never return because he'd be polluted, to see if there's any honkies in the world who want to participate in saving the world and reuniting and collaborating with nature. It's fabulous read, and I was telling that to an Apache friend, and he said, it's like that. It's just like that. And I go, yeah, once again, third world people are going to, are saving our ass in a sense, and the wind power, the northern tribes doing, red-green power with windmills. I mean, all kinds of great stuff, collaborating across borders, yeah.
Nice. When we were talking about the moving through the darkness, the balsamic phase of humanity or whatnot.
Act 5, yeah, we could get to that part. Yeah.
One of my favorite poets, David White,
yeah.
in the end of a poem called Sweet Darkness, he has this line, he says, sometimes it takes darkness and the sweet confinement of our aloneness to recognize or to realize that if anyone or anything does not bring us alive, we've made them too small for us. How could you comment on that in terms of like what you're saying about bringing the enchantment alive across borders,
Right. Well, complicity, experimentally acknowledging our complicity that whatever's coming down, we're contributing. And we can inhale and withdraw our complicity. So even when we're dealing with right-wing, we're all part of one large porcelain cream, so we say, well, we're willing to no longer consciously or unconsciously hire people to disappoint us, or hire people to thwart us, or hire people to make us feel important by them being cuckoo. We go, no, let's release everyone from the spell. Kierkegaard says, presume love in the other, and that presumes somewhere in each person, I mean, it's harder, it's very hard, and for some, but that there's something good in there. I mean, and it starts to set another story in play. The black Christian churches say, there's no one we couldn't love if we really knew their story. We go, it's challenging, and we can all think of people in power who've been murderers, sociopaths, and you go, and I go, that's why there's more than one of us, because someone will volunteer to love that person. We go, oh, it's good, and dispel. But we know that tyranny loves face-off. It loves being hated. It gets strengthened by that. And so how do we spiral and not become, very often the anti-authoritarian becomes the authoritarian. Let me tell you how it is, and we go, that's the evolution past the 60s, in which there was a lot of, anti-authoritarian, tyrannical people. And that shadow play in which the oppressed becomes the oppressor, and we go, no, we want to break that dance so that we really have, and that's where I think magic and astrology really come in, which is astrology is the language that speaks to us and reawakens what we really do know and what we really do hope is true about collaborating with everything. And it honors, each of our uniqueness. It says, if you love chipmunks or wolves or a particular color or culture, go for it. It means something. Pursue that thing. It's your unique contribution to the team. You, again, are its ambassador. What?
I was just listening to the band come when you're saying that.
The same
yeah, astrology seems like it has a wisdom of rhythm, of change, of the yin and the yang, that would be the perfect thing to unite us at this time.
Say that again?
Astrology's sort of wisdom of rhythm would be the perfect thing to unite us in a philosophy or a vision,
Right. And I think what you're doing, what we're all aspiring to do too, to lift the shame off of it, because people. Well, it's interesting. It's very much in America. When I went to Syria, there was a point also at which we were in one of the large souks, and there was a scholar, a very fundamentalist Islamic man, scholar doing magical calligraphy, and very sort of anti-foreigner in some way. But when I was introduced as an astrologer, he was like, great respect and accord. We go, ooh, it was unexpected but wonderful. We go, so many other cultures don't have, and then those cultures, of course, sometimes they want to be American, and like Persians go, we're Persians in LA, and so far astrology is superstitious, but it's moving back. So how do we make it inviting and resonant and immediately useful and not dingbatty and simple and superstitious? Because the secret is, astrology is this beautiful disc language that is so radical, so liberating, so extraordinary, so needed, that it has been suppressed and exiled and trivialized. And what we're doing is sucking our complicity out of the trivialization, and going, no, it is a beautiful language of complexity. And we don't necessarily even need it, but it is an evolutionary assist to our own intuition.
We're kind of here. We're kind of here in the solar system, right?
Well, we are kind of here, and also people who don't even think about it. We're all practicing astrology. All of our calendars come from the sky. All cultures derive their story from it. They invited in the sun's power to animate that culture's story about what it thinks it's doing. The days of the week. We have 7 days of the week because of 7 visible planets to honor what those planets represent. That in fact, astrology is a language about cultivating real freedom, and therefore completely the antithesis of what people think about, superstition, whatever. Yeah. One thing fascinating about astrology, which you might like to comment with your work with tribal animal spirits, is, when my son was born, and, that moment when a baby comes alive, they're like sucking the gunk out of their nose, and suddenly they go, and it's like that breath hits them like a ton of bricks, and I almost forgot to look at my clock to see what time he was born, Right,
But at that moment, the sky turned dark, it started raining, and the ascendant shifted to 1 degree Cancer rising in Key West at a birthing center called Babies by the Sea.
Wow.
And he came out and he had these little eyes that were kind of beady like this, and he was doing this. And I was like, oh my God, Cancer rising. And me, I'm Sag rising, and I go on runs, and when I go on runs, I make, and I get into that. I feel this horse energy in me. So it seems like these animal essences are written into the zodiac,
Well, yes, and our alliance with the visible, actual animals and the invisible spirit juju of the animals is really crucial. We take these little touchstones full of implication. A wonderful, wonderful friend of mine was in a terrible car accident, and her neck was broken, and she was in a full body cast, and the doctor said she might not walk. And she was like, no, because she's that kind of person. She could just move her hands. And so she told me, and she's completely for real and precious. And she said she could move her hands, so she just did a little drumming each day. And she said each day in her mind's eye, this magnificent horse would appear, and he'd say, hop on. And she said they would ride through the underworld and galloping, and the horse would telepath to her, feel my strong rippling back muscles. Feel how strong my spine is. And 2 weeks later, the doctors x-rayed her spine, and they were like, oh, it's fused. Now she had to steal pins and stuff for 12 years, but she fused. So and we say believe nothing, but entertain possibilities and experiment with everything, going, ooh. And our alliance with animals and plants and everything and the invisible version of all of that is crucial. It's, again, the work of so many people right now, and Graham Hancock's really good book, Supernatural. 40,000 years ago, something happened that was extraordinary everywhere in the world, in the southwest of France, Kashmir Cave, in South Africa, probably through most of Africa, in Australia. Suddenly there's these fantastic cave paintings done by humans, not only little hands waving at us, their hands, but also horses, and half animal, half human beings. This is really important, and he does a whole great thing that it's, entheogenic plants that help us to evolve to perceive these additional and necessary aspects of reality. We go, yeah. Again, when you say how did you get into astrology? Well, it was the whole realm of magical thinking going, and from being a teenage, cynical, everything sucks kind of person, going, religion's a crutch, and everything sucks, and it's terrible, and authority, blah, blah, blah. And then entheogenic plants and mythology and it was like beauty and wonder and patterns and the world, and I was so small and reacting against what was terrible in human life, but the splendor of it all, this is the way to go, and how to help guide and line up human culture so that it is artful, and so that we're calling upon those qualities of being human that make us proud rather than ashamed. Matthew Arnold said to be cultured is to be acquainted with the highest possibilities of the human spirit throughout time. We'd say that's kind of a Jupiter deal, going, just to give us kind of encouragement, going, wow, humans did that. That's a good thing, as opposed to, oh God, that's so horrible. Oh, shooting lions that are tied up. Like, oh God, humans so slow to learn, and yet fantastic, And I think what you're doing too is, presenting, going, here's the cool stuff. I mean, here's what's not, but here's how it could be, such a miracle that we have 126 billion miles of DNA in our bodies. Is this extraordinary thing, you'd think that would increase a certain amount of reverence. Why would you want to shoot or blow up an experiment like that? It's like, oh my God. And as you know, when, talking about your son's birth, and I had a baby who died, and it's so profound. And you go, it's not easy getting here, and it's not easy surviving. So everyone who gets here deserves a lot of respect. Going, you made it. Again, cultures used to, at births, welcome, we're so glad you came, as opposed to like, the art of welcoming birth and praising those who are departing, and praising and welcoming and healing those returning from war, so we don't keep doing that. And even the sacredness of divorce. I mean, I like that the trickster Uranus says, when people come to me and having Uranus transits and they want to change everything and get divorced, we go, that's good, there's a sacred way to do that. And Uranus, part of ourselves, says, we are big gods. We want you to divorce the part of yourself that got you into this pickle. And then whether you leave this person or stay with them is a minor detail. We leave to you humans. So in a larger sense, we say, they go, we want you to divorce the part of yourself that got you into tyranny, that got you into this false government of abuse and narrow greed and disrespect for life, this toxic mimic of what real government should be. Let's all of us divorce that part of ourselves that abdicated our authority and gave it to unsuitable recipients.
I think Barack Obama is on that track with trying to unite even the opposition.
Yeah, he's good. His Mars, as we said, conjuncts the U.S. Neptune. He animates a desirable, soulful part of this country. Absolutely, and that in the mystery play is great by itself, and we thank him, absolutely.
So in terms of the spiritual path, astrologers themselves are so multivalent. I mean, I even describe myself as what religion are you? So I'm a Taoist, Christian, mystic, Buddhist, Taoist or
Well,
Magi.
Right, that's good. I like pantheistic animist myself, but I go, but even that's a little too confining.
Yeah.
We don't want to take any of these constraints too seriously. We go, that's good for starters, and we don't want to do it as a secret kind of like snooty thing, going face-off thing. You're a Christian, I'm an Ozy, and we go, no, because that's a tyrannical smallness when it could be a point of engagement. Neptune says, in negotiating a personal conflict or a global conflict, start with the desirable unifying vision. If we start with realism, it's just horrible. But if we start with, we say we can now animate a vision that we could probably get almost everyone really deeply in their heart to believe in. Inner cities blooming, a wonderful life for all children, respect for animals. E.O. Wilson, great Harvard biologist, has a plan for a mere $28 billion. We could resolve most global human poverty and save most of the species on this planet. Because most horrible human poverty is in these environmental hotspots. And if we shift again economic development so that we are encouraging stewardship as a replenishing business and even ecotourism, then we go, yes, we can do that. So if we start with the desirable vision, going, well, wouldn't we like, a wonderful life for all children, inner cities blooming, local farms, all kinds of stuff, a respect for elders and storytellers and babies, and we measure a culture's evolution by what it protects and serves and keeps track of, keeps care of, its children, its environment, its storytellers, its elders, and we go, by that measure, we're crazy. But if we restore that and talk about really traditional values, really root traditional values and real reverence for life, that's why I like to call environmentalists sane, reverent people. Let's switch the word. Anything that's an ist is easy to counter, like, oh, it's just those ists, and you go, no, it's sane, reverent people had this to say today. Because if you start and you go, aren't you a sane, reverent person? Why, yes, I am. Anyway, so then you get a desirable vision, we go, let's animate that. If you start with how, so it says start with what? If you start with how, then it's like, no, but if my city blooms, if your city blooms, mine can't, and we go, and so I think vision and wonder allows the trickster and synchronicity to come in to leap over depression masquerading as realism, and that's where we are really now, teammate. As a friend says, a Southern saying, we ain't play acting now. It's like we're in this thing, and if we're not having fun, we're just not serious enough.